we can put it on the website. So again, thank you for joining in tonight. For those who, well, just to verify why we're here, this meeting is for families in the secondary school setting. So that's John Knight Middle School, that is Dixon High School, and that's the Alternative Education Program, Main Prairie, and the Community Day School. Tomorrow evening at 5:30, from 5:30 to about 7:15, I'll be having another session in English. That'll be for the elementary schools. And then from 7:30 to probably about 9:30, we'll be hosting one for the Spanish-speaking community. So please feel free to join any and all. These will be similar to a large degree until the kind of the end of the presentation, where we get a little bit more into the differences between the school sites, mostly those mostly being tied into schedules. So sorry, I'm just admitting a ton of people here, and it's distracting me. So let me get going. The context for reopening, I just thought it was important to speak for a couple of minutes about what we can expect when we get back. And one thing we certainly can expect is that things are going to be different. It's my 33rd year as an educator, and I've never seen kids walking around campuses with masks, save for Halloween, perhaps. And I have never had such a enormous worry about health and safety. I feel like somewhere over this last year, I moved from being an educator, an educator to a public health official. It's been really an interesting twist in all of our lives, right? And we know, school's coming back, and not every child will be there. And not every child will be there every day, and all those other kinds of things which we're dealing with as this transition period. I think we all certainly hope that by the time August rolls around, we are doing school as we recognize it. So another thing I want to acknowledge is our kids are going to come back, and they're going to have different needs than they've had in the past. Not exclusively. They still need to learn to read and write and problem solve and interact with others. But this year has been damaging to a lot of kids. And the impact of the removal from the social aspects of school, seeing their friends, growing and developing through the work with their teachers and other staff members. Just getting out of the house is going to provide them with different needs than we've had. I told this story at a board meeting a couple of weeks ago or a month ago. I was at John Knight Middle School, and 8th grade student was there helping to pass out papers. Kids were coming in to pick up materials one of those days. And I've known this child actually since before they started school, a child of one of our staff members, the most bubbly, engaging, really socially gifted kid that you can imagine, who after a little interaction with another student said, "I don't know how to do this anymore." And I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I don't know how to talk to people." And so I just want to recognize that in addition to the learning loss, the legitimate, kids aren't writing at the same level or reading or performing at the same levels in math, which we know is an outcome of this time period, and we'd be fools to say otherwise. There's a really big impact on our kids with social, emotional needs and issues. And so that has to be a point of focus for all of us, and parents, guardians, as well as us at school, Some kids will respond to this by acting out. Some kids will respond to this by being very quiet and silent and withdrawn. Some kids will appear to be normal while they've got stuff buried in. And for some, the transition will be welcomed and smooth. But we just want to acknowledge that we know that we're going to have to use some other tools that we haven't necessarily had to use before as we transition our kids back. Here's a guarantee for you. This is not going to go 100% smoothly. Promise you. I've never had a school year or beginning of a school year go 100% smoothly. And with this transition, there will undoubtedly be times where something happens or doesn't happen that we thought was going to, and we have to respond quickly and deal with it. This is a time period for us to be flexible and patient with each other. It is going to test us all, right? And I'll talk a little bit about some of those ways as we get through this presentation. And a lot of them, we don't know what those tests are going to be yet because we haven't done this. So we will see what the future holds in terms of adjustments and transitions that we have to get through. Again, many of them we anticipate, we've planned for, but things will happen. You know, I'm a father of two adults at this point in time. Raising them was an ever-changing thing. All these years in education, I know things are always fluctuating as well. And with this specific event of bringing kids back to school after a calendar year of them not being here, there will be moments, and we just have to approach those as it's the next step, right? And not beat each other up when things happen. Okay, just admitting a couple more people, sorry about that. So we want to talk about the timeline for return. And the note I will make at the bottom is these remain subject to final adjustments. And if any of those adjustments happen, they will happen before Friday, and I will communicate that out to you in my regular weekly correspondence, right? We have some moving parts around this whole return that have to be accounted for, and I'll talk about some of those as we go through the evening as well. But what I've presented publicly at previous meetings and has gone out in that weekly update, which if you don't read, I really encourage you to. But as of this moment, Thursday, March 18th, that is 9 days away, we are looking at returning our Sylvieville preschool program. That's a very small program. A lot of people aren't even aware of. The intensive learning center students in kindergarten through 12th grade. The intensive learning centers are a part of the special education program that the district offers, and there are students enrolled in that program across all sites in the district. The 12th graders, so our seniors, who we all felt for last year's group, a whole bunch losing the end of their senior year, and we want to try to return our 12th graders to get them back in. Also, we're counting on them to do a great job of adjusting and helping welcome the other grade levels in. And finally, we welcome our alternative education program to reopen. That's Main Prairie High School and the Community Day School. So that's March 18th. On Monday, March 22nd, we'll be looking at our transitional kindergarten and kindergartens and first, sixth, and ninth grades. And you'll see with all of these transitions, we're trying to blend some students from a variety of sites and grade levels, so that some places are going all their elementaries and then transitioning into middle and then transitioning into high. And some of the feedback we received way back when we were talking about reopening was to get multiple sites open. There's another reason for this kind of approach, and that is to make sure that we are doing our very best to comply with the requirements of what's called the in-person instruction grant. It was approved in Sacramento almost 2 weeks ago now. And if we have all of our elementary grade levels and at least one middle and high school level open, we'll qualify for about $955,000 in reopening funding, which would be a great benefit to us. Also really want to try to have things open, get every kid who is going to return in person with their feet on a campus before spring break. And so this timeline would get everybody back in person for at least 2 days before the spring break. So that feels like kind of a large symbolic thing in some ways, but also just the practical thing of let's get going. Okay. So next slide. We've been saying from the start, safety is the priority here. We follow the guidance that comes to us from the Centers for Disease Control back in Washington, the California Department of Public Health out of Sacramento, another Sacramento agency, Cal OSHA, and OSHA is responsible for employees. So we have to plan for the whole range of our school community, including our employees and requirements through OSHA. So in a document, it's about 3 weeks old now, the CDC prioritized 5 areas with regards to safety. And none of these are surprising, I don't think, to any of us. Kind of the greatest hits of COVID-19 practices that we've all, we know them. I don't know that we love them, but they are all very familiar. And so what I want to do is spend a little bit more time teasing these specific items out, and then I'll touch on some other safety things afterwards, right? So face coverings. So everyone present on a campus is required to wear the face covering at all times. The exception is if someone is eating or drinking. And honestly, there's going to be a lot less eating and drinking on campuses than there has been in the past. So the face covering can be a mask or it can be a face shield. But if it's going to be a face shield, it has to have a drape attached and tucked into the clothing so that that breath doesn't get out and about. So we have tens of thousands of masks, both cloth and disposable, in the district right now. Thousands and thousands and thousands. So in terms of being able to count on us to provide a mask for your child or for an employee, we have those in great abundance. Exceptions for unique circumstances. I'm not sure why I said on a case basis. I guess there's potentially many levels to something. These are going to be really rare, and it could be a student who has a situation, a medical situation, or some other really uncommon circumstance where that we'd be having a conversation around wearing that face covering. So for those who wonder, will all kids have to wear face covering, even those littlest ones? The answer is yes. Face coverings are required. Distancing. So we are all now fully experienced with the 6-foot distancing requirement, and we will be enforcing that absolutely to the fullest degree possible. In the CDC guidance, there is—
I'm listening to a town hall.
There is reference to a—
you want to play games, you can.
4 feet. If everybody can mute themselves, please. Thank you very kindly. I'm going to mute all there while all right, got everybody muted again. We have a 4-foot standard that you can employ. We really never intend to do that. We want the 6-foot threshold in classrooms and office spaces and such. Some classes are having furniture removed these days to allow for adequate spacing, right? Our room capacity for students, it's not a one size fits all, It is based on the square footage of the room and each 6-foot area. So our people do some basic math of here's the 6-foot space. How many of those can I fit in? There's a designated area for a teacher desk and their workspace. And then the desks are spread out to be able to make sure that that physical distancing is intact. Talk about desk use. So, and we're going to get some video out, and hopefully that'll be tomorrow, of model classrooms. And what you will see is 2 desks together, and then some space, and another 2 desks together, and then some space, and another 2 desks together, and then some space. So why is that? Well, let's say it's desk pair 1. There's a desk A and a desk B. Desk A will be used in the first part of the day, and desk B will be used in the second part of the day. So each desk, with very few exceptions in the district, will be used once a day. Our exceptions are our kindergarten rooms have tables which will have the plexiglass barriers. And some of our 4th and 5th grade classrooms will have to clean all the desks in the room. The enrollment there is a little bit higher. And so we'll have to make sure that we get through and wipe those desks down. The opportunity of availability for us to stagger students and have that A desk and that B desk does help us get through the day a lot more successfully. We have plexiglass barriers on each student desk or table, and I've actually been using one of those for the last couple of board meetings that we've had, and they have been remarkably solid and stable and easy to use. So the barriers are actually not called for in anybody's guidance. They are suggested as an additional tool to mitigate risk of transmission. But the fact is, we now have the plexiglass barriers for every desk or table. Those are largely right now at the sites. They're not in the classrooms quite yet, with some exceptions. They're being distributed. Final note here is the physical distancing is required in the outdoor spaces as well. And this can be a tough one for kids, regardless of age. I think that for our younger kids who are used to playing and getting hands on each other an awful lot, this is going to be a challenge. But for our high school kids, you know, sometimes it's looking at what somebody else has on their phone, or our couples who may be on campus who'd like to play a little huggy bear kissy face. I've seen some of that over my many years here. There are those types of situations where kids want to cluster. It's the natural thing. It's kind of what they're built for in many, many ways. But that distancing requirement is also in place outdoors. So when we see kids out on these secondary campuses, we're going to have to see them with a mask on, and we're going to have to see them practicing the social distancing. All right. I'm going the wrong direction there. Hand washing and sanitizing. Students will have to use hand sanitizer when they come onto the campus and when they come into classrooms. We have dispensers, touchless dispensers. There's bottles, the pump bottles and pour bottles all over the district. Students are also going to have to use sanitizer as they leave class for a transition or a break, and when they come back in. We've got some classrooms with sinks, not very many in the secondary setting, but those would allow for hand washing in addition to or in place of sanitizers. Already said that about they're everywhere. And sanitizers will not be placed in the bathrooms. In the bathrooms, the guidance says, wash your hands for 20 seconds. Obviously, if a student is doing that during their passing period or break, they're still going to use a sanitizer when they come back into class, but everyone should be using the bathroom sink and soap antibacterial soap to make sure that they are following that part of the protocols. Cleaning and disinfecting. So each, I was talking about this a little bit before, each student desk or table will be cleaned between uses. So again, with an A desk and a B desk, it's not that we're going to have to clean every desk between every period. We wouldn't be able to do that. So having the right number of desks in the room and having each desk used for a single period only will allow us to I guess, operate efficiently and not have these half-hour periods between classes where we're trying to run around and get cleaning done. There was a get off my mouse. There was a change in guidance that came out, I believe it was in January, and it said you should not be disinfecting student desks, student tables, because of the risk associated with chemicals involved in the disinfecting. So we bought a ton of electrostatic sprayers and the product that goes in them that we were spraying in our staff's classrooms and offices after they returned to work. And now the guidance is not to use those except in areas like restrooms or in rooms where there is a possible case or confirmed case. So the student desks and tables get wiped down with our standard custodial supplies. What will be happening during the course of the day, that next bullet is, there's a lot of areas that get a lot of hands on them, a lot of bodies passing by them, those types of things. So things like restrooms and door handles, and if we're distributing food somewhere, counters in offices and such, and then others as needed. Those will be disinfected throughout the day and after each school day, between the school days as well. So we actually envision having staff who on a regular basis will roll through and probably with the wipes on those, just 10 seconds on a door handle and then move on to the next one, right? And our custodians are preparing to do a lot of restroom cleaning relative to what is normal. We'll be making sure if there's anything liquid spilled, that'll get cleaned up and disinfected immediately. And the specific cleaning schedules and making sure that we have the staff to complete them we're planning for those like crazy. Give you an example at the secondary setting, documenting, okay, classroom 101, it has a class in first period and a class in second period. So we know that before third period happens, we're going to have to get in and clean the desks in that room. Where classroom 102 might have a first period, but no second period, and then a third period. And so we have a little window there where we don't necessarily have to clean all of the desks in that room. We've got half of them ready for that next period, that third period, where kids are in there. So that's a pretty micro example for you, but it hopefully just captures the sense of how strategic we have to be as we are looking at making sure that the cleaning gets done appropriately. The next of the 5 big priority areas from the CDC relate to contact tracing and isolation and quarantining. So what happens when there's an exposure, possible exposure, suspected case, confirmed case? All of the guidance from CDC, CDPH, and OSHA is really detailed and completely accounted for in our planning. One thing that we say all the time, but this year really, really, really have to do it, is if your kid is not feeling well, keep them home. If they're sick, keep them home. Many of us as parents, I did it myself, said, oh, come on, you're okay. We can't do that in these circumstances. We've got to keep people home if they're sick. Just the chance that it is transmissible. Also, it will just create an environment, if sick kids are coming in, or sick staff members for that matter, but if they're coming in and are, raising concerns of, oh my gosh, does that person have COVID? And we'd like to be able to avoid those types of situations. So anyone feeling ill or just aren't up to 100% really should be staying home. We'll be able to connect you with your teacher in your classes. So there is a document that if it were small enough, I'd carry it in my back pocket these days. It is the California Department of Public Health COVID-19 and Reopening In-Person Instruction Framework and Public Health Guidance for K-12 Schools in California, the 2020-21 school year. It is a very, very extensive document, and it is available online. I believe in one of the weekly updates some time ago, I included a link to it. But if you go into cdph.ca.gov, you can find this document in there. Pages 33 through 41 in this publication lay out specifically what to do with regards to suspected cases, exposures, who gets isolated or sent home, how the contact tracing, that's not what it is, but the contact tracing and what happens. When do you quarantine someone? When do you look at needing to close down a classroom? When do you need to look at closing down a whole school? The extreme circumstance that you would shut down a whole school district or local educational agency. So I am not going to walk us through these tonight. What I can assure you is that these pages and other associated documents that complement them are absolutely specific in the steps that we have to take, including the coordination with Solano County Public Health in reporting and responding to cases. So we have had a number of staff members who have tested positive for COVID since we began our school year. We're really happy to say that in no instance, so 0 cases, is the transmission of the virus identified as happening in the workplace. So people got exposed elsewhere, came to work, and it turned out that they had the virus. We don't have any circumstances where, gosh darn it, I'm sorry. We don't have any circumstances where where transmission has happened on our campus. So it is our goal to continue that as we begin to bring our students back. So success so far is we've had really all of our classified employees and about 60% of our certificated employees, teaching, counseling, school psychologist staff, back in person. So obviously bringing kids back in puts more questions in front of us, but the whole success so far of our efforts, things have worked out well for us so far. So the clusters are outbreaks. So one person being positive is one thing, and 2 people being positive is another thing. When you hit that 3 and more standard, you're considered to have had an outbreak or have a cluster in place. And obviously, when those things happen, there are just much more restrictive responses, as I made reference to, including closing the school district. I've not heard of any school district being entirely shut down. Certainly, we have seen schools, not just in California, but across the country, schools and in some cases districts that had reopened and then had to close again. Our absolute goal is to make sure that that does not happen here in Dixon. Some other safety areas. And again, these are important. They just didn't make the CDC's top 5 for a variety of reasons. So stable groups. The idea of stable groups is to limit the number of students and staff who interact with each other, right? So that's how you get to things like the A group and the B group, or the AM group and the PM group. Trying to keep students in the smallest cohorts, which I shouldn't use that word, it's got a technical definition, but in the smallest numbers of direct contacts with each other as possible. So the stable groups are really hard to do at secondary level, and to say otherwise would not be accurate. You have kids taking a 6 or 7 period day in most cases. You have them going to typically 6 or 7 teachers, again, in most cases. You have all this cross traffic on the campus. You have just a lot of movement compared to the elementary school setting. So our effort with regards to stable groups then in the secondary setting is to have the A kids who, as you'll see, will come a couple days a week, and the B kids who will come a different couple of days a week. So a lot of effort to try to ensure the stable grouping. It is easier to achieve at the elementary setting than it is at the high school setting. We're going to be sending home to you the daily screening questions that if you've gone to a doctor's office or traveled or all sorts of other places, they ask you the same standard questions about have you had this symptom or that symptom? Have you been exposed to anyone with COVID? Have you traveled? So the expectation with those is that families and staff respond to those at home before they come into school. There's no means for us to collect those responses. We couldn't do it. We won't try. It'd be totally impractical. So it really is this individual responsibility for families to do this with their children. Fevers of 100.4 and higher really are a golden ticket to staying home. I think my own decision would be to use a much lower threshold than 100.4, but that is what is in the guidance. So those questions will be sent home and shared repeatedly, along with the reminders to make sure that you're doing it on the daily basis. So response testing, we will be making testing available to all of our students and staff in situations of possible exposure. There is another form of testing. It's called surveillance testing, and that is the widespread, regularly scheduled testing of students and staff, typically on a weekly or every other week basis. We have about 2,900 students in the school district. And if you thought about testing half of those people on a weekly basis, so we're at 1,450. If you think about roughly 25% of that 1,450 people being at home, choosing distance learning, so about a quarter of those folks, you have over 1,000 people a week that we would still need to conduct testing on. When I said earlier, I feel like I've transitioned to being a public health official rather than an educator. A full surveillance testing program would take me out of the education business, as it would my administrative team out of the sites, and make us full-time public health officials. We do not have the capacity to do ongoing regular surveillance testing. So as families think about their choice of distance learning or remaining or coming to in-person, I think that information about what we're doing with testing or not doing with testing is an important one for you to consider. The guidance, again here, points out that using the other practices, the face coverings and distancing and sanitizing, hand washing, all those other things, are the most effective ways to prevent the spread, mitigate or prevent the spread of the virus. Testing has mixed, results. There's mixed evidence on if testing makes a difference in the school settings. Ventilation. This gets talked about quite a bit. So we have, over the last 5 or 6 months, upgraded our filters in all of our heating, our HVAC units. Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning is what HVAC stands for. So we're using the highest level filter in our units that you can. It's rated as a MERV 13 for anybody who likes to keep score on those things. We've also purchased a freestanding HEPA filter air purifier that's been placed in each classroom in each office space. So we have the 2 levels of assistance with ventilation. We've also pumped up the level of fresh air that we have coming through our units. Typically, you'd have a mix of about 10%, maybe 12% of fresh air coming through your systems. We've pushed that up to 20%, which is a high level, and actually creates a little bit more stress on the units. That's why typically you use the lower number, but we have all heard about fresh air being beneficial in avoiding getting sick. So that's what we'll be doing. Access to campuses. This is a tougher issue at elementary settings than it is at secondary, because like mine, most of your kids don't want to be seen with you very much in public, and especially not at the school site. So, students will be entering through designated areas. There will be, every gate will not be wide open. We'll want to have a limited number, somewhat limited number, so that we're able to do things like provide the hand sanitizer and monitor and, hey, Brian, you need to get your mask on before you come in, some of those types of things. So families are not going to be able, and again, not a secondary experience, to walk their kids to class or enter the campus unless through that school office and following all the protocols that we have there. Dixon High School has had a doorbell system over there for months and months and months. It's worked really well. And I'm not sure exactly what John Knight is doing at this moment in time, but the things will be different. I said at the start, the ability to just walk straight into an office up to the counter and ask for service or support is going to be restricted. We really are going to encourage families to rely on phone calls and emails as much as possible. And absolutely, there will be times when a student needs mom or dad or grandma, grandpa, guardian, whomever to come and assist them with something at school. But even things like picking up a kid who's not feeling well or something, to a large degree now, that would be parent waits outside the door and staff walks that student to the door and leaves campus, rather than parent coming into the office and waiting until their child is in the office or ready to go. So there are some things that will look different here. And again, this is less of an issue at the secondary setting. Nonetheless, many of you do come to campus to pick kids up for appointments, medication, things like that. It just is going to have to be different. Schedules. Got to take a drink here. Pardon me. I think there's probably the majority of the 300 in this meeting right now are here because you want to know about the instructional schedules. And as if you've been paying attention either to what I've written or said out there in board meetings, you're aware that our schedules are subject to negotiations. We've been working on them for really quite a long time, and we're really very, very close to having them finalized. I can't give you final schedules tonight. I hope that I was going to be able to. However, I'll be able to share some basic structures that I think will help you understand. So we negotiated with the Dixon Teachers Association this afternoon, and we're with them for the full day tomorrow. And without going too far, we have a lot of optimism about being able to provide you with final schedules here very shortly. Trust me, I know not having the schedules is frustrating. I've received lots of emails and public comments, and I live in town, grocery store, Ace, Walmart, whatever it is, and people make it clear how badly they want to have the schedule in front of them. So It's difficult to get them put together. I won't try to explain the full realm of negotiations with public employee groups. It's complex. And we know that for some of you, that the decision about staying in distance learning or coming back in person is really dependent on, excuse me, the exact schedule that we adopt. I'll make a pitch for this now. We did send a message out at 5 o'clock earlier. We do have our, I guess we can call it a survey, but asking you to report to us if you're choosing distance learning. There's a form on our website. We also said you could call your school offices. Well, some very appropriate and clear feedback said, don't make me choose before these town halls are over. So that was dumb on my part. So we've actually extended the date out to Sunday, coming Sunday, which is the 13th. Is that right? The 14th. Extended out to the 14th. I think I cut it off at 9 p.m. If families have made a choice already and want to reverse that after these meetings or more time to think, you're going to be able to do that. We will work with the most recent submission that you gave us. So please don't feel hemmed in that you made a choice based on what you thought the schedule was going to be. And then when the final version comes, it doesn't work for you anymore. Please call the office or submit a new form and we will make that change. So despite the fact that we don't have a final schedule to share with you tonight, I can provide you with some of the basic elements of the schedules that will help you get some understanding. Really what's missing here probably are the start and stop times, although I'll characterize those a little bit for you. And I was working with the leadership of the Teachers Association before this meeting, going through what I was going to present and making sure that it was accurate and that it didn't interfere with the negotiations process. Because if we set off alarm bells, either my side of the table or theirs, it slows things down. So talking about John Knight Middle School and Dixon High School here first. So as I just said, you can choose to stay in distance learning. Do so now, however, because after the opportunity to respond closes on Sunday night, we are operating with the presumption that you are returning for in-person instruction. So you have to choose to stay in distance learning. We are having families respond to us with their, my kid is going to come back. I'm sending my children back to in-person. Some of those have very excited voices and smiley faces and things like that associated with those. So default is you're in person. You must opt to stay into distance learning. And we did it that way because in the survey of about a month ago, about 73% of our people said that they would be sending their child back to in person. So students will not have new teachers or classmates. They're going to remain in their existing schedules. This was a concern more so at the elementary level than it was at the secondary, but every course is going to continue in its current formation with teacher and classmates. Okay, shifting that in the secondary level would be really, really difficult. And not advisable. We want kids to transition back with the people that they know. So students who remain in DL, they're going to continue to attend class remotely. Students who return for in-person instruction will attend in person 2 days per week and remotely for the other 2. That's kind of the textbook definition of that hybrid model. It is a blend of in-person and remote. And Wednesday will be remaining as an asynchronous day. So that day where students don't see their teachers and classmates at all, that they are working independently. Students are going to return to A/B groupings. So when we made our shift in the schedule at the end of January, everybody appeared in class at the same time. And so the A-B groupings became unnecessary, really. So now that we're going to have students attend in person 2 days a week, the A's and B's are really important again. There may be a little bit of shifting that happens in A's and B's, because in some places the balance between A's and B's was way off, and you might have had one classroom that had one A group that was 6 kids and a B group that was 25, just the way the alphabet fell. So we want to minimize any kind of shifting that might happen there. So the A group will attend in person on Monday and Tuesday. They'll have the asynchronous day on Wednesday, and then they'll attend remotely on Thursday and Friday. And the B group does the opposite: remote on Monday and Tuesday, async on Wednesday, like always, and then they will attend in person on Thursday and Friday. So this is, well, I was going to say this is kind of a standard approach across our area, but we are seeing some districts where they choose 25% of the students will go back on Monday and a different 25 the other 3 days. So students only get 1 day in person. And those days aren't necessarily full days or close to the full day length before we went into this mess. So we are, planning on having our students back in the 2 day a week model. And I would also say, should conditions continue to improve, and if we were to open, reach the orange tier, or heavens, the yellow tier, the best tier, there are conversations we would immediately start to have as those tiers were approaching, actually, about could we expand the in-person time to more than just the 2 days. This is a start. By no means is it the end. And while we're getting down to the point where there's close to only 50 days left in the school year, I think it's, I'll just speak for all of us and say, we want our kids back in person for every day that we can possibly get. And at the same time, supporting our families who choose distance learning. So other elements of the JKMS and Dixon High schedules, they're going to attend all of the classes that they are enrolled in every day, except for Wednesday. So Wednesday remains asynchronous. So some districts are doing what's called a block schedule. And so on Monday, students may only have period 1, 3, and 5. And on Tuesday, students would have periods 2, 4, and 6. And those periods might be 80 or 90 minutes in length. So then students only saw their teacher in person, their classmates in person 1 day per week. So one of the things we were pleased with in conversation with the Teachers Association was trying to maximize as best we could in these conditions the number of times that students and teachers would be together. So it is a single period day, just like JK always has, and like Dixon High School has, except for those the every other week double block, double period, double Wednesday, double Thursday. So we're glad to have this as one of the foundations of our new schedule. We have a model working at the table, the negotiations table, where our periods are going to be very similar in length to the current schedule. So, there's nothing that, periods are going to drop down to 25 minutes or periods going to expand up to 70. They will remain real close to the time that we have currently. And then at both sites, food's going to be available through the district food service program. We're actually required to provide food for students through that service. We right now are in a position where all students eat at no cost. And exactly how and when food will be provided is going to really depend on the final instructional schedule. There is a chance that we could have lunch within the school day. There's a chance that we could have a snack and in the school day, and then a grab and go lunch at the end of the school day. Those are essentially the two options that are possible at this point in time. So exactly what the details of that Bell schedule end up as will determine what the food service actually looks like. But again, all students on campus will be able to eat for free. So we're looking forward to trying to help kids. We do know that students need a chance to get something in their bellies, and a day going late into the day without the opportunity to eat at least a snack for kids is not healthy, not beneficial to their learning. In the alternative education program, so for Main Prairie High School and the Community Day School, so the schedules are very similar to those for John Knight and Dixon High in general. The small enrollment at Main Prairie specifically provides some options where we might be able to do a little bit of a different schedule on how many times students report to the site for in-person instruction every week. We only have 99 students enrolled over there right now. And so when you're not dealing with hundreds and hundreds, there's the possibility of getting students over there more time in person at school. The Community Day School really has kind of an elementary style schedule with a start and stop time. So that will continue. They don't have individual periods in their model. Thought it was important to let you know how many kids we expect to be on campus each day. And so I've got a slide for each of the three sites and want to make sure that I kind of do this slowly and carefully, so I don't have a bunch of you wondering and needing to ask questions at the end, right? So John Knight has an enrollment of about 580 students right now. And so if you take that 580 and you divide it between the A's and the B's, there are approximately 290 students each. I know that 580 divided by 2 is 290, but again, we have a little bit of variation between the A's and the B's. It's done alphabetically, so they're not exactly always divided by 2. Our survey data from last month and the current trend in what we're getting in response to our request through the form that went out last week is showing that about 75% of students are expected to return for in-person instruction. So as the period for people to submit their choice continues, and as families hear things from these sessions, that may, and when they see the final instructional schedules, that number may go up or down, don't quite know. But if I take that 290 kids who would be the maximum on an A in an A or B group, and look at 75% of that, the percentage of students we think are going to come back in person, the expected maximum number of kids on the John Knight campus on any given day would be about 218, right? So one of the things I've had to do repeatedly, especially in these later stages of planning, is catch myself and Dixon High, hold on, we're not talking about 1,020 kids. We're talking about half of that and then subtract 25% out. And so some of the things that we have to do become a little more manageable to think about when we realize that out of 580 students, we expect only around that 218, 220, somewhere around there to be on campus each day. So it makes it feel a lot more manageable for people like me. Dixon High School, 1,016 kids, so 508, take that 75% figure, and we anticipate that the maximum number of students who'd be on campus would be around 381. And obviously these are all estimates. We don't know exactly where things will fall. So again, if I compare a regular school day at Dixon High with 1,016 students and think about it with 381, my management of students throughout that school day feels a lot more reasonable to accomplish. It feels like you can that you can certainly, you have abundant staff to be able to supervise and support students in that number. And then at Main Prairie, 99 students, or we'll call it roughly 49 again, 75% of them is 37 students would be that expected maximum. And that's if we're in a 2-day model at Main Prairie. We have, as I included in an earlier slide, the possibility of looking at a model there that features more than 2 days in person for students. And if we were to have that, that number could increase above the 37. But hopefully when you look at these numbers, you think, okay, keeping kids distant and safe is a pretty reasonable expectation given the numbers that would be on campus. A few summary points. So one of the things we're really working hard to do is to align the hybrid schedules with the current schedules. We do not want to throw kids and family a whole bunch more change. Everybody has been working through this, and at times we have had to make adjustments. I think we have found that what we did in the secondary level back in January to create more time where kids were in Zoom, in class with their teacher and classmates, and less asynchronous time. That has been a benefit to most students in terms of their success. And at the same time, that was an adjustment that families had to make, right? So we know that those things are a challenge. And you're in routines right now, and for many of our teenagers, they have responsibilities of supporting siblings and such. So we really are working to try to keep the schedules coming up as closely aligned to what we currently have. We're working on the schedule design and the A and B groupings, and a thread through those is, that stable groups and trying to maximize safety as we look at the construct of how kids are coming to school and what numbers, how they move around. The safety protocols and practices for classrooms and other spaces really are well established. Heaven knows we've had a bunch of time to get ready for that. So touchless hand sanitizers, the ventilation things, the numbers of masks, the ability to set rooms in ways that desks don't have to be used period after period. All of those things make us feel really confident that we are going to be able to operate safely here. Students continue with their current classes and teachers. Families who want distance learning get to continue to do that. Something I didn't mention earlier is we'll give you a one-time change of program should you choose distance and then you hear that in-person's fantastic and you want to start in person. We're going to let you do that. At the same time, if you start in person and for whatever combination of reasons decide distance is the better choice for your family, then we'll give you the opportunity to make that change. We won't have people bounce back and forth. We got to have some consistency there. So we would allow you that one chance to do things differently. So final point, this is really going to be different, but I cannot tell you how much learned a lot through this. And one of the things that I have learned, and it's additional knowledge, I've always understood this to be the case. Kids need to be together, and kids need to have the presence of adults in their lives to help with their growth and development, and really assist in them becoming people. I say, and I have colleagues who disagree with me and say that's not our job. But my approach as an educator from the time I started till today has been the work we're doing with your kids is we're raising children with you. You're the primaries, and we are the support. And you know, for most of us, we saw our children spend more time with the adults in their schools than they did with us in a given day, right? And so the importance of being here and having those connections with peers and with adults who are here to teach and support them is really, really important. And I will also say that the dynamic of allowing choice for families who want to remain in distance is critically important as well. We have to provide choice for parents right now during this time. If we were not, I think we would really further disrupt kids and families' lives right now. Okay, so I'm going to shift into questions. I'm going to ask for you to raise your hand in the chat. Somehow, despite my computer being plugged in, it just said my battery is low. So I'm going to get up for a minute and check out what's going on with my charge. Please get yourself into the queue to raise your hand. I'm going to wet my whistle again for a moment, and then we'll get going with your questions and answers. Okay. So I am going to work my way down the hands that are raised here. Zach Hodel is the first name on the list.
Oh, hi, it's actually Nikki.
Hi, Nikki.
Hi. So I'm just wondering, as we move to the orange and yellow tier, do we have to go back and negotiate with the teachers unions and DTA each time?
It's a little unclear. So if working conditions change, so this is the basis of negotiations. Working conditions have changed because of COVID, and that's our obligation, is to negotiate because of that. When you look at a transition, it really amounts to our working conditions changing as a result of that. If not, then we don't have to go through the whole same extensive process, right? And the fact that at this point in time, we have the framework just about done to be able to bring students back. And what's the change between 2 days a week and 4 days a week or 5 days a week? You know, I think there's an argument that can be made that it's not really that extensive of a change. So it's going to depend a little bit, quite honestly. I'll tell you, we're the agreements we're working on now are our third since we closed, and we're all tired. Everybody involved in it is tired, and I think I'm really optimistic that we're going to get back and find success, and people are going to start breathing and relaxing a little bit there, and our comfort levels will go up. We will let you know. First off, we will communicate. You know, I've been trying to tell people red's coming, red's coming. If we're moving towards orange, I'll be communicating the same thing. And then what the implications are for that. Are we looking at a position where we have to go back to the table? We'd let you know. All right, Joe. Joe Zico?
Yes, I have a question for what the in-classroom might look like. I have two high school students. So for those that go back to school in person, would they have, in addition to the plexiglass around them, would they have a computer in front of them and a headset on? And would they be doing basically like in-person Zoom? Or is this kind of more traditional where they're talking directly, interacting with the teacher?
We are really excited about the fact that kids will be getting direct in-person instruction from teachers. Okay, That's been a concern. A number of people have asked in prior meetings too. Um, um, we've talked about the fact that, every kid now has a computer. And if they don't have a district computer, they need to get one as we return. So learning in our classrooms will not look the same as it did before, because now we're, they call them a one-to-one district. And kids are going to be expected to bring their device back and forth from school and home every day. So that's one of the silver linings of this whole experience, is that we've advanced so much technologically, right? But will kids have time on a device in class? Yes, but we're really looking forward to kids and teachers engaging in discussions and talking to each other. It is not simply a Zoom, in-person Zoom is not what will be happening. Okay. Who's next? Rebecca Mannion.
Hi, I am a parent of a senior, and our biggest question is if they have any agriculture classes or mechanics, welding, things of that nature, what is that class structure going to look like? It has been pretty good so far. Mr. Tanaka is really good about trying to engage the students in as much real world as he can, but of course in all of those classes, it's very hands-on. And so we want to know before we make our decision what that will look like for students with those kind of courses, going forward.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it applies to more than just ag classes, right? We have the arts, we have music, we have science, we have a variety of content areas where the norm is that kids are close to each other and working collaboratively. It's one of the best things about school, in my mind. So we are going to continue to get input from staff and talk about how we can manage these spaces with the masks and the distancing. Now, I know our ag shop pretty well. I worked on building it and equipping it. And I have to believe that in that shop, there's a lot of opportunity to have kids work spaced out, right? And it'll take some additional training and education from our staff and some upgrading from kids in how they roll as well. There's some, I worry about maybe somebody's got their, I'm going to mute everybody and other than myself, sorry. Please turn your phones, microphones off. The band, if we look back, a band has been the greatest super spreader, probably a super duper spreader event that has happened in schools over as long as schools have existed and music has been part of the curriculum, right? So we're looking at ways to make adjustments to the music program at all sites to be able to make sure that kids continue their education in music, but that we're following safe practices. So we're going to be able to work through these coming weeks as we get ready to return with the site administrators, talking with their people on how this can roll forward. So we can look to activities, including things that happen outside instead of inside, is one of the ways that they may happen. All right, Savannah Coggins, please.
Yes, question for you. How and when will we know if our child is switched from, let's say, from group A to group B to help even out the classes?
So those would, and really, I don't expect very much of that, but that would be communicated by the school sites next week. We will hit our sites. Monday is a holiday for students and teaching staff. But we will have our data and be able to sort it by site and kick it out. And then adjustments that need to be made to balance out would happen and you'd be informed about those changes in the middle of next week. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome. Heather Moore Diaz.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for all the hard work that you guys have been doing to get our kids back in school. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
I have a clarifying question. I have 2 high schoolers, and my daughter attended the freshman meeting with Ms. Marquez today, and it was shared, and I'm paraphrasing here, that most of the work would be done on computers in the classroom, and there wouldn't be paper and pencil and those types of things. It sounds like everything's still trying to be figured out at this standpoint. Is that true, or is it majority of the work going to be on the computer?
Yeah, and again, this is one of the changes that will be lasting, right? That students will use the technology more and the old pen and paper less as we move forward. That said, at times there is no substitute for the piece of paper that a student needs to work on or draw on or whatever it may be. I think it's going to vary quite a bit content area to content area. I was a history social science teacher a million years ago. My son is one currently, and I could see being able to do that without a lot of paper involved, even with kids in front of me. Just Google Classroom and such are such great tools to use. And, if you think about kids who are going to go into post-secondary education or training, including things like the trades and auto mechanics and everything, the reliance on computers and tablets and such is so much higher. So there will be a lot of computer work, but not exclusively, and again, we're looking forward to having kids be able to look at each other and have conversations and collaborate and not have to put anything in their hand and not have to look at a darn screen. Okay.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah, Holly.
Good evening. I had the same question as Joe and Heather because I know that my children in junior high and high school have been teachers have told them what class is going to be like, and they were under the impression also that they would just be doing basically like Zoom in the classroom. So that was my question. So I'm glad to hear that things have changed since then. But second, I noticed on one of your slides, it said that students will be attending all of the classes that they are enrolled in every day but Wednesday. And on the first presentation, it was more of a block schedule type of thing. So I know you said you can't share the schedule, but are they going to be going to every class, or is it going to be, longer periods of time?
No, somebody has, Jeanette Perez, you could turn your mic off, please. We had initially discussed, the district had initially discussed a block schedule as we saw some advantage to it with regards to safety and cleaning. And since then, we have really shifted to looking at a model and are very close to finalizing it. That is a go to all classes every day. So we think, a big part of that was our teachers unit saying they wanted to see their person twice a week. That's all that they can, we know that that's all that we can do in the hybrid model. So we are not pursuing a block schedule. That was an early consideration that's gone.
Okay, I just want that question. And also, just so you know, your chat is open, so you have a lot of questions that have built up in the chat. So just
yes, I've been keeping kind of an eye, so I'm gonna.
Okay, just want to make sure you knew.
Yeah, I'm gonna take about 3 more hands, and then I'm gonna jump into chat and kind of work from the oldest part of it forward. So, okay, let's go to Tammy.
Hello. First of all, I want to say thank you for everything you've done. I've been on every single board meeting, and the time that you have put into this, and just you as a person, I don't know how anybody could not like you. But anyway,
Oh, I can
my-
give you a lot of reasons, Tammy.
I don't get it.
And
Sometimes
so
I
can
hear
other
this
people in
stuff-
this meeting.
I don't know. I hear stuff and I'm like, gosh, he's not a superhuman as much as I'd like to say you are sometimes. Geez. Anyway, one of my first questions is you had said earlier about wiping down desks between periods. So if a teacher has a period 1, then a period 2, are they being wiped down between those 2 periods? Or did you say it was not going to be wiped down between periods?
Yeah, so let's say if we've got 30 desks in the room, and 15 of those are A desks and 15 of those are B desks, or period 1 desks, period 2 desks is the way I should get rid of the A's and B's. So the kids in first period sit in the 1 desks and the kids in second period sit in the 2 desks. So you're not having any desk with a child sitting in it 2 periods in a row. So when does the room have wiped down? It gets wiped down between second and third period, right?
Okay, I got it. I think it was because I was hearing A and B, so I was thinking A schedule, B schedule. Okay.
I'm good at confusing people.
No, that's okay. My next question, I actually have several. Some of them you already answered though. My next question is, how are we handling the change of classes, like walking from class to class? Is that just kind of a, all of you guys administrative out there?
We're really looking to have as many eyes and ears and adult presences out in the hallways, in the breezeways, whatever they may be, out on campus. We really have an expectation that the kids who are going to come back to us in person are so willing and able to follow the rules, right? They've been waiting for this and waiting for this and waiting for this. So we really expect a high level of cooperation. And yes, it's impossible to paint lanes at Dixon High School for all kids to walk through at all times, but keep your masks on. Don't congregate in small groups, keep walking. And, we know a close contact is 15 minutes or more within 6 feet and one person or both not wearing a mask, right?
Yeah.
So passing by outdoors, which again is a reduced risk, will be able to help us, we can't micromanage the whole process. So,
but they will be traveling from class to class.
Yes, they will be traveling. Yep, that's we had to do. Otherwise, they wouldn't get to keep all their classes, right?
Yeah, exactly. One of the other questions I had was about classes being even shorter now for that 1 o'clock release. You've kind of answered that you're touching on trying to keep that the same, so I won't even ask that. The other was A and B. How will we know when kids are switched to make it equal? You already answered that one. One of the other concerns I have is people traveling during spring break and being transparent with the school and letting us know that they did travel and they did go on a plane and they went here, they went there. What are the guidelines for that travel? Is it that they do have to either get a negative test or quarantine for, it's not 14 days anymore, it's 10. How does that work?
Yeah, we are waiting for a little bit more clarification coming from county public health on this. It's something all the districts are concerned about. And as you suggest, we have limited ability to really know what the heck people are doing and if they're gonna follow the rules. There's I know one school where we have that we have contact with that's been open for a long time, and they actually found that over time, families who had families where a member tested positive for COVID stopped telling the school because they wanted the kid to keep coming to school and that kind of stuff. So unfortunately, there is precedent for people not being full disclosure, and I get that. I mean, family business is family business, but when it comes to possibly transmitting a dangerous virus, we would hope that we would have people cooperate. So we're going to try to support that. We need a little bit more direction from public health, but in the end, I don't think that we're going to be able to do a whole bunch about it, quite honestly.
Okay. And then the pickup, is that just gonna look the same? Parents drive up? I know that John Knight is a little
Yep.
different now. Parents just drive up and wait
Yep.
for their kids to come out type thing. There's no getting out of cars and stuff like
No,
that.
We'll be really encouraging people to stay in their vehicles. Yes.
Okay, the only other question I have is seniors that only have 4 classes and then
Mhm.
they 1 day a week, they have their what's it called? Work experience class, and it's a 6 period. How does that work for them? Leaving, coming back, staying through?
Yeah, I mean, it would be a leave and come back.
They would be allowed to then?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
that was it. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm gonna try to tackle some questions in the chat. So let me go back to the beginning of this. Oh, I just saw Camila. Thank you for your offer to be a co-host. I should have. So there's an early question. I'll do these as quickly as I can. They're going to go to school full time or only for a few hours. It's not a few hours. It'll be as close as possible to the current amount of hours that are in the day. Just answer the question. Are kids going to different rooms in high school? They will be going to different rooms. Next question, very similar. AB going to work with classes changing multiple times. That is what will be happening. You know, there's consideration about, oh, could you have teachers move around? But with the specialization in the high school curriculum, especially, but even in the middle with science and art and things like that, it just would have been really difficult to do. What about during PE? You can't expect kids to do physical activities while covering their mouths. The guidance actually says that students should still wear a mask while engaged in physical education activities. When our state changes the mask mandate, will this protocol be changed? And what I would say is we're going to continue to follow the most current, up-to-date guidance that we're presented with. That is the rule book for us right now. Will teachers be vaccinated as well? You know, we unfortunately have zero control over vaccinations. We sought to have a clinic for our district employees in town. We were not able to obtain that. We're a little bit too small and on the far end of the county. So there were some in Vacaville, and Fairfield and Vallejo has been able to vaccinate a lot of educators in the county as well. Many of us are finding the opportunity either through our own healthcare providers or the CVS's and Rite Aids and some of the others. So we are encouraged by the reports of how many people are getting vaccinated. It's become less of a hot button issue, I think, as people are getting their shots. Yesterday I forwarded out to staff, there's 4 days of vaccinations happening in Vallejo at the fairgrounds, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So there's some good opportunities out there. Let's see. Gabby asked a question, as a student, what happens if we start in person and realize it's not right for us? You get to make that switch, my dear. People say some nice things to me here, and thank you for that. But I'll connect you with my wife and you'll hear a different story. Question about, again, how would you notify if you're switched from A to B? That would be in the middle of next week. Orientation for 6th graders. We're not going to be able to do orientation prior to bringing kids back. But one of the things at John Knight is we are bringing the 6th graders back first. So they will be on the campus alone, and it provides the staff with a better chance to get them involved there. It's you know, I had my dream about the transition over there was that we would have 6th graders go over for a day of tour and a rally and lunch, and then do a day for 7th graders as well. And that just couldn't happen. Bus service is only for students with disabilities who have transportation currently in their IEP. So they will not have their, you know, I believe Ready Ride will be running, but they're pretty reduced, I think, in how many people they can have on their vehicles. PE is one of those areas where we have still to have some conversation. It is really difficult for me to foresee having a bunch of kids in locker rooms changing. And that said, we certainly want the physical education program to be as close as possible to what it should be. Orientation for freshmen. Ms. Marquez, somebody mentioned at a class meeting. So again, we won't have in-person orientations for any of us. Possible for siblings to have the same days in school? Yes, they should. And if you're not, if that doesn't happen on the natural, then you should call the school, then have that lined up in case that does not align. Cody asked if you have an immune compromised student and are planning to return your child, what procedures will staff do to minimize risk and so on. So I would really suggest that anyone who has a child in with that kind of condition, get a hold of the school tomorrow and say, if school's not already aware, but even if they were, I would get a hold of the school tomorrow and say, hey, we need to talk about my child coming back. It's what I'd like to do, and get information about the protocols. Kids with a district computer, he prefers his own PC. Yeah, kids continue to use those. There are some advantages to our devices just in terms of accessibility to some of the programs and apps and such. All right, I'm going to stop on questions for a moment and go back to hands raised. So Terry.
So I know you spoke about in class and stuff. I'm concerned at how the teachers are going to be doing the teaching in front of the class and doing the Zoom at the same time. Even now when they're in the classrooms, they miss a lot in the chat if kids are asking questions. So how are we going to make sure that they're getting those questions? And or is there going to be a camera if they're up at like a whiteboard, so that there's a good view of what's happening? Because obviously the computer cameras aren't going to be able to catch too much. They're pretty much just for right in front. Mm-hmm. So how do we keep it so that the kids that are in the Zoom are still getting the education? Yeah,
in our exact format will be decided, hopefully finalized, hopefully tomorrow, if things go well for us at the table. So one of the factors that I mentioned earlier and trying to remember, continue as a point is that we will have, right now, that Zoom is full of, if it's an elementary setting, it's 24 kids, give or take. If it's a secondary setting, it's 30 kids, give or take. And in the model you're going to have in the elementary, you will have, a smaller group. That still does not happen so much for the secondary setting, right? So we're going to have all kids from a class in that class during that period by whatever means. So we've recently test drove a number of cameras, and order has been placed for those to be used by classroom teachers. We have projectors or monitors at John Knight in classrooms that will be able to be used also to perhaps it's project the Zoom, the remote working group. Here's something I can assure you all of. We haven't done, our teachers have been very creative and resourceful through this whole time. I'm amazed at some of the things that I've seen them do. And it's been very difficult. And this transition to teaching remotely and in person at the same time is going to be difficult, right? And that point I made at the start about there will be challenges and there will be unexpected moments and such, absolutely will be the case. You know, we know that that is going to happen. I trust in our staff. We have professional development planned for them around the concurrent teaching model that we expect, a nicer way of talking about remote and in person at the same time. We will learn quickly, and I count on everybody doing their best. That's not as specific an answer probably as you'd like, Terry, or as I'd like to give, but there's between projectors and additional cameras and 2 screens and things like that, we're pretty confident that we're going to be able to find success with this. Okay. Christian Torres.
Hello, it's actually Sarah on my son's computer. My question is, I have 2 boys with IEPs. My oldest one that I'm concerned about is a freshman, has obviously never been to the high school campus. We've only lived here in Dixon for a few years. So for children that are obviously special needs and have severe anxiety, and just freshmen in general, how are they going to get acquainted with the campus?
Yeah, so the 9th graders are the second group to report to Dixon High in the framework that I laid out earlier. So there is some benefit to the place not being super crowded with them at that time. With A's and B's, we have I think it's about 220 or so 9th graders right now. So you're talking about less than 100 kids coming on those first 2 days, and another 120 or so. But here's what I would suggest for anybody who has a specific concern for your child. Reach out to the school tomorrow, contact the administration or the counselor, and let them know, especially when it comes to issues around the anxiety and stress, which are so real, but make sure that you reach out. The sites are just itching to be able to communicate out with you on specifics about how things are going to run there. We got to have the schedules done to be able to let them hit send and stuff envelopes and those types of things. It may be that with some of our students with disabilities who are not in the intensive learning center programs, but still we might want to bring them back in that first level of return, and not have to wait until the rest of their classmates come as well. So contact either your case manager or assistant principal or principal counselor and inquire about that.
Okay, thank you. Also, he will be taking the bus, so I know drop off and pickup is going to be different. Is the bus going to have a designated area for the kids, or it
will, and the buses will only be carrying half capacity at a time, just to maintain the distancing and such. So
yeah, that's what his bus driver told me, that she's only allowed to carry four kids at a time.
Right. So again, you should be contacted by the school, by the case manager, but I would encourage you to be proactive and give them a holler tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome. Adrian.
Oh, okay, thank you. I just wanted to, can you hear me?
Yes, sure can.
Okay, I'm using the earbuds that I don't usually use. Chime in. I wasn't planning on participating. I was just listening for the information, but you did mention band, and it characterized it as a super spreader activity, which I take exception to. I don't know if there's any studies that you could cite for that. I mean, the studies that I put one in the link that shows that aerosols transmitted through band instruments is not what it was thought to be. And I know from my communications with band directors around the country that they are doing band in person. There's many schools that have already started hybrid models, and they have the kind of room and Zoom thing going on currently. And in fact, Vacaville Christian has been in person doing instruments with, band PPE since the fall. So it can be done very safely. I sent the school district, I know you were on that email, a list of PPE. So just, I don't know if you can respond to that.
Yeah, Adrian, thank you. And I'm sorry if I didn't characterize that fairly. What we're continuing to hear from public health is great caution about music programs. That I'm a supporter of band in Dixon and have been, since 1998 when I first met you. What you guys have done with Zoom and music is it's just nuts. I never, when this started, I didn't think it would be possible. We want to return all programs to the fullest level that we can, right? And we do have a list of PPE that you shared, and Mark is trying to track that stuff down, and we're willing to spend the money on it. There is coordination that has to happen with Stephanie and Bob and Angela, your admin team over there. We've got to connect dots, and unfortunately, you're not alone. That the earlier question about ag classes, and I point out science labs is just one that we wouldn't necessarily think about. So the commitment to you and to all band families is we want to restore the program to the maximum that we can, and part of that might be you guys playing outside more than would be normal, right? You've got a lot of blacktop around there, and that might be one of the ways to mitigate some of the concerns.
I'm certainly willing to do that when it's possible. I did reply to that email, and I encouraged, when I talked to Mark, that he said that none of that stuff would be purchased until there was a in-person return date. And I advised that I thought that was a mistake, that we would be getting things too late. So I think, I don't know what you're talking about in terms of having to go through Stephanie or Bob. I think that those things need to be ordered, 2 weeks ago. So I'm very confident that I can administer music safely. I'm willing to go outside. We do have an enormous band room. It's at least 4 times, probably 8 times the size of a normal classroom in terms of cubic feet. And
why don't you understand? Tell her everything.
Considering we aren't having all of the kids come to school at the same time, we're talking about a relatively small number of people probably being in the classroom. And I can't imagine how I wouldn't be able to do that safely. So I feel very confident with that.
And referring back to the site admin, so we're not, from my world over here at the district office, not doing the fine tune work around how a program is going to run at a site. That's my reference to them, not about the PPE.
Oh, that's just what it sounded like. It sounded like you were saying that they had to approve the PPE or something like that.
No, not at all. It's just, that admin team at the high school working with everybody on instruction and including, I think especially including programs that are challenged because of the nature of the program, as yours does have some extra elements to it, for sure. All right, thank you, Mr. Colson.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Who's next? I'm gonna go to Jocelyn, and then I'm gonna go back to the chat for a minute. Jocelyn, welcome.
So my question is, so you mentioned the option of being able to switch at one point during the school year. If I was to choose to stay online for now, and then I wanted to switch back to in-person school, when would I be able to do that? Is there like a specific time?
Yeah, we're going to let you, I imagine we might have a cutoff time where, we get to May or something like that. And we'd say kind of TikTok, the game is locked. But you, my friend, if you a week in thought, nope, I want to switch, you switch, right? We wouldn't keep excuse me, keep anybody captive in a program that's not working for them, especially when everything has already been so stressful and challenging up to this point in time. So that's kind of information you'll get when you get when we get started up. But we want to make sure we do everything we can to be able to support where people are most comfortable. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome. All right, I'm gonna go back to the chat and try to pick up some of those, so bear with me. Okay. Let me get to where I was. Okay, busing for migrant students is a yes. Oh, Ms. Mack made that as a statement. Yes, we would be transporting our migrant students out from the migrant center outside of town. If orientation is not going to happen, can maps get sent out? Yes, including what we want to include in those is highlighting what gates would be open where kids could actually enter. If student has an IEP, can we have transportation added? That is an IEP team decision. So what I would do for you is contact your case manager or the site administrator so that you can revisit that issue. Are you doing staggered pickup and drop off to be able to maintain social distancing protocols? You know, we're going to start by asking for common sense. We've got, and hopefully that will be abundance, but, you know, hopefully, you know, we could see people do a little bit more spreading out and having that kiddo walk an extra 20 yards to keep yourself a little less congested. If a child is back to school in person and is sick for that day of in-person learning, would they be able to log in and do class remotely? We really want that to happen, yes. What we're concerned about and would not let happen is Monday, I decide to do my in-person, and Tuesday, I don't feel like it, and the next week I'm trying to do the same thing, or people are treating, hey, I can work remotely for the next week and a half while we go on vacation. We don't want to have the system abused in that way. Can you go over what lunch would look like for high schoolers? Will we be able to be with other students? Hi, Gabby. You know, if we have lunch, and there's no guarantee that we will, what we'd anticipate is about half the kids on the campus would be out for lunch for the first lunch period, and half the kids on the campus would be out for lunch on the second lunch period, is we think to minimize risk and kind of try to maintain the stable groups. So we'll get that schedule out for you guys here really quick, and you will see that it might have lunch, it might not. If it doesn't have lunch, there will be some extended breaks, and you would be able to socialize during that time. TAs helping spot questions, man cameras. Yes, yeah, TAs could be helpful in those classrooms as well. And Gabby's back. Question number 2. Anyway, higher grade students at Dixon High could help out new students. You know, I think I'm open to anything that the school sites want to do. One of the challenges is trying to keep the stable groups as much as possible. And so some of that would be difficult with you know, maintaining those separate groups. Mike's been thought about for teachers. Actually, Bluetooth units with the earbud and the mics are what we are looking at to help with that. And the Bluetooth can be a little glitchy sometimes, but it would be a way for the sound to get right into the computer. Band in a large room, Mr. Colson just talked about that. What happens if your child is sick? Again, we don't want to see that abused, but working with the school site, we'll be able to accommodate those things. We don't want a kid to miss school, period. So we'll have to get creative as we work through that. Understanding correctly, the kids who are on non-campus days will be Zooming into the classroom. On the other groups on campus days, really not a place yet where we can make that formal determination, but our model for remote learning has been Zoom, Google Classroom, and it's tough to see making a huge change in that at this point in time. How will teachers fit all the desks in classroom and keep this 6 feet apart from the rest? I'd remind you that we've got 2 things going. One is every other desk is being used in essence, so not all desks are occupied at the same time. And 2, we've got the plexiglass. So we've done the math. Our standard classroom is 960 square feet. Here's the space that each 6-foot section requires, and it allows us to get about 16 kids in each classroom. And how will you miss school? So we've got that illness question again. Can kids bring a drink and a snack? Yes, they won't be able to eat or drink in that classroom, except perhaps for a little bit of water. But we do not expect kids to go without putting something in their belly for the day. I think, and I missed it, there was a question, could a student bring their own hand sanitizer? Absolutely. That is absolutely encouraged and allowed. All right, back to hands. The Albertazzi household, my neighbors, how are you guys?
Hi, good evening. Thanks for all the stuff that you're doing.
Thanks,
So
Joe.
my question is for for Gianna in high school. She was just concerned. She was told one of her teacher that if you don't have a 6th period and you can't eat your lunch at school, you have to go home and come back for the next.
No, so 1 or 2 things will happen. We won't have lunch, and school would end, at a point early enough, still with periods basically the same as they are now. A snack in the morning, and then kids would grab lunch as they're leaving or eat on their own. So it's that model, or there would be lunch on campus for students who would be there for 5th and 6th periods. Okay, so we would not keep kids till the end of 6th period and not give them an opportunity to eat.
Okay, so she don't have to leave the school and come back for the next.
Oh, no,
okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I might make your husband leave school, but
I'm always late anyway. Thanks, Brian. You're
Thank
doing
you.
an awesome job.
guys take care. Thanks. Regina.
Preferential treatment, Betty.
Regina, are you there? She's not there anymore. So MJ Mule 000's iPhone, something along those lines. Thanks, Regina. I see your note. MJMUL. All right, I'm going to go down to Maricela. Maricela.
Hello. I have a question in regards to schedules. So once we know what schedules our students have, I have high school kid and elementary. And if that schedules need to change, would I be able to request that so I can accommodate childcare and all that?
Yes, we're going to do our very best, right? Because we do know, right now they're on different schedules, but they're all at home, right? And we have many of our older students caring for younger students, right? And supporting them. I've talked to so many families who have that going on. Absolutely, we would entertain whether you're talking to the secondary school staff or whether you're talking to the elementary about a shift. We would want you to make contact with us about that, okay?
Okay, and then I do have another question. My question, what would be the max number of kids that would be in classrooms? And right now, just talking about high school students.
Yeah, so again, it's governed by the square footage of the room and the 6-foot distancing, right? So Mr. Colson a few minutes ago mentioned our band room is enormous. We have some other spaces, some science labs that are bigger than 960 square feet. So they actually could take more students than other rooms. 16 students is really our maximum based on a standard classroom and how many, looking at the chat, how many kids we can fit in based on that square footage. Most rooms is 16.
Okay, thank you so much. And I just want to say you're doing a great job. I really thank you for all your support.
I love our kids, right? That's the fuel in the tank. Thank you so much, Maricela. Debbie.
Hey, Brian. Hey, I
Hi,
just
Debbie.
want to confirm about the desk in the classrooms. I know I've heard that there each desk will have plexiglass around it, but then I also heard today that that's not happening, that we're doing plexiglass just down the rows.
No, there are desktop 3-part plexiglass. We've been using them at the last couple of board meetings. So no, we've got those things for the desktops.
Okay, great. And then just the only other thing I had about that was the plexiglass that's on them. Are they connected on all the sides, or is there an opening?
No, they're 3-part, right? So some of us who've been around for a while have had kind of like privacy shields for when kids are testing or things like that. So essentially, they're that same kind of structure. Well, it's almost like science display boards, I guess, as well. But that same kind of structure of 2 parts that fold in and out with a larger piece in the middle.
Okay, great. Thanks.
You're welcome. Let me go back to the chat. And I did see Iselda, who's a smart young woman, a moderator to help in the chat. That's a good idea. Thank you, Iselda. Maya, what will the workload for students look like? Will they be required to come home after their schedules and still do async work online? Will there be a cutoff when assignments can be sent after school hours? For instance, I have high school kids that receive assignments some days after 3 o'clock with a same day return for that assignment. So hopefully those circumstances improved when we shifted our schedule and have less async time, than we did before. We found the async demands being really, really challenging. And for a lot of kids, it was the volume of the work. For some kids, it was not having the support to do the work. Sometimes teachers were doing their very best. I see your note, Elizabeth, and yes, you hang on, dear, and I will talk with you at the end. Sometimes it was, they needed some more direct instruction before they tried to do that independent work. So what we should see with the transition is that some classes will still have some homework, but that it shouldn't be things that are due immediately the same day. I mean, homework should be due the next day. Wednesday will continue to be there as an async day, and that will be able to that should help with some of those demands. And I see, Tammy, your note as well. So I didn't really have an understanding that an assignment from earlier in the day was due by 3 o'clock. That's a practice that I'll talk to our principals about. We've got to be able to help kids manage this. And especially, as I said before, they're going to have different issues coming back than they've had at any other time being in school in person. So we're going to have to be sensitive to those for sure. Let's see. Oh, some people are saying some more nice things. And gosh, I love that, Katie. My 9th grader was dancing around the living room with excitement listening to this town hall. That's good stuff. Thank you for sharing that. COVID testing at school. There's recommendations and there are requirements is part of that difference there, Peggy, looking at your question. And our understanding at this point in time is that response testing is acceptable. Yeah, okay, I'm going to follow up. I'm seeing several comments here about the assignments due before 3 and then being late. I'm curious about that, so I will talk with our wonderful middle school principal. Let me give you a last chance to raise your hand or to put something in the chat. We're at about 2 hours. And I do appreciate the questions, and hopefully we helped you out a little bit tonight, folks. Thank you, Adrian. I see that one too. Rebecca.
Hello again. So during this meeting, my daughter came in and was talking with me about some things that she had questions on. One of them, she was under the impression from the meeting that they had with the seniors today that if they were sick from school, that they were required to attend the Zoom classes, and if they did not, that they would be considered absent, and that all the work that they missed was due the same day that they were sick. I said, from what I understood, that was not the case, that, you know, you try to make up your work, but is this going to be something, this is part one of a 2-part, but is this a requirement that's going to be new for in-person learning, or?
Yeah, I think, Rebecca, we have some cleanup conversations to have on a number of issues. I think this is probably one of them. So here's my quick take on it without having had that full conversation. If a student is ill, they always have the right to be absent from school, right? We have the possibility in this hybrid model of having students attend remotely on a day when they are scheduled to be in person. But if my kiddo is really not feeling well and needs to spend the day in bed, and not do school, that's what they should do. And the education code says that you have the number of days equal to those absent to make up work. So if I were out sick I'm a B kid and I were out sick on Thursday and I come back on Friday, I should have until Monday to get my work done. Okay.
Okay. So the second part of that question is if she has an appointment or something like that, a doctor's appointment or something, will it be also the same as it was normally? I know it's a lot different this year, but the same kind of thing where we just call and excuse them and then, okay.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. I did not misunderstand you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
My other question is, I know you also talked about this, but again, she was, under the impression that once they decide either yes, distance learning, or no, stay, go back to school, that once they decide that, that's it. But from what I understand, from what you said, they have one opportunity to decide that they can either stay in the program they're in or go to the opposite. So I just want to double check before this ends that yes, that is correct.
People make a decision now, and then if they want to change their mind, we'll let them do that once. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for double clarifying those for me.
Absolutely. Gonna go back to the chat. I know there's some things that came in. Let's see. Okay, more about the assignments and 3 o'clock. Thank you, folks. We're going to follow up on that. Temperature checks, Mr. Colson, I got a C on that. And I see our district nurse, Lisa, is right after you. If those are going to have to continue or not. There's actually, the science on those is not very supportive of the practice, quite honestly, as I have read. Lisa Vandergraff, our district nurse, makes the point. You got to be up current on your required immunizations. So you're going to hear, some of you are going to be hearing from our nursing staff to make sure that you are getting those shots. It's Tdap for a lot of middle schoolers. We've got Natasha, I think I kind of talked about the workload for distance learning. PE at the junior high, it's going to take a little bit of time when we come back to sort out how PE will run. Again, the mechanics around, are we going to have kids use locker rooms or not? That kind of scares me, but it still might be manageable. And again, we have to provide food at all campuses. And again, depending on the schedule that we finalize, it may be a grab and go lunch at the end of the day with a snack somewhere mid-morning, or it might be an actual lunch period embedded in the day. Will parents and students know if one of their teachers don't return to in-person class? Yeah, we would inform you if there's any change there. And yeah, Maggie, you've got it right. And Nikki, thank you for the nice words. Tell Sarah I said hello. Looking forward to seeing her and everybody else. This is going to be hard, folks. But I've been telling people getting our kids back after all of this is going to be about the best day that we've had in Dixon Unified School District since it's fired up in 1948. Really looking forward to that. And I see your comment, Joseph. Yes, and there's athletic use around locker rooms, and the question is about classes and the number of kids would be in there and that kind of thing. All right, folks, I am going to release you from. And Michelle, come tomorrow too. Thank you. I see your comment there. A lot of the stuff at the front end of that meeting will be the same, but we will get to talking about elementary schedules as well. So get myself a drink. It's a big gulp and a sparkling water. Thanks, Joseph. Appreciate it. Good night, everybody. Elizabeth, I am going to hang on here, my dear. We'll get actually. I'll message you here real quick, Elizabeth, and then we can talk, okay? Thank you, everybody. We're going to get this done. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody. Almost there, Elizabeth. I'm moving the lingers out. All right, the name Mark Monticello is up there. He's my, he just sets the room up. He is not in the meeting. Oh, my dear, you know, you've been on my mind. Give me the honest, well, you're an honest person. I don't have to say that. How are you?
Better now that we're kind of moving into distance learning or out of distance learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to throw up when I talked at the board meeting the other day.
Say that again?
I said I wanted to throw up when I talked at the board meeting on Monday.
It's hard, isn't it? Yeah, but again, sorry, sweetie, you are such an impressive kid, young woman. You're not, well, you guys are all my kids. I'm sorry. I got 45-year-olds in this town who are still my kids. You just have it going on, girl. And your voice over the course of this last however many months, especially, I want you to understand how important it's been. You know, and I don't
like it.
Huh? You don't
I
like
don't
it?
like using it. No.
Well, sorry, lady. You have both an obligation and the ability to use it. You know, some people don't have both, right? So you have put yourself in a position, and rightly so, of being a leader, being someone who takes on responsibilities outside of your, I'm a student, if you have a job, that kind of stuff. You're one of those people, and the world is not full of them. I promise you that. But you're one of those people who kind of sees the big picture, right? Is empathetic, compassionate, you know, able to look at others and see they've got needs and need love and support, even if we're not necessarily comfortable doing that for them, all that kind of stuff. You're just very special, you know. And I was I was having a text exchange with a student earlier today, and she's somebody, I suffer from really significant depression, right? A really strong depressive disorder, and I ignored it for most of my life. And I actually took about 2 months off of work almost 3 years ago, and kind of it was almost like I was down on the ground with a heart attack and needed the paddles, right, to jolt me to get my heart working again. So I went away and got that work started, and I was going to Kaiser in Vacaville, and one night I'm going in for my my group, and she was a middle schooler at that point in time, and said, "Oh my gosh, look at us here," and like her response was, "Oh, it makes me feel better to see you here, Mr. Dolan." And I said, "It makes me feel better to see you here too, sweetheart," because at that point I was 55 years old, and here she was 14 at the time. And I said, "You've got 4 decades ahead of me, a 4-decade advantage to be well, right? To be well." And she is, she texted me today, checking in on me, right? And it's like, you know, she's 16 now. What 16-year-old in the world texts the superintendent of schools of their district, "Hey, I'm checking in on you. Are you taking care of yourself? Are you finding some time to rest or do something relaxing? I know you're under a lot of stress. Da 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 da." you have the same kind of magic in you, right? And I just consider that student to be a young woman who's, I just call it a beautiful soul, right? And I don't know you particularly well, my dear, but I see your beautiful soul. I do. I do. And as I told the student earlier today, you know, at this point in time, I figure that I am somewhere around, because this is my 33rd year in this business, somewhere around 20,000 students. 20,000. Isn't it crazy? Including some dumbass ones like your father, you know, just to keep it 100 around here.
He still is.
He's
definitely better than my mom, though.
There's a good heart. There's a good heart with that man, always was. And so when I tell you these things, I have this big old pool to compare, right? And I've always been intuitive and kind of recognize people, but and I don't say the kinds of things I'm saying to you to everybody, because I'm sincere. I try to tell the truth, except to my wife when I've not done something I was supposed to do, but you know, that's marriage. But I see who you are, and who you are is good. It's good, genuinely good. And so, you know, the time around Luke and how you stood up and led, you really did lead then. Yeah, I don't know if you recognize that.
No.
Do you?
Kind of.
Yeah. Well, as an old guy who's you know, seen other tragedies involving our students, and you know, just again seen thousands and thousands. Yeah, you led, my dear, and you led with a lot of courage. You know, what you wrote and getting that out there and letting me push it out further, and that was really brave. I mean, it was really brave, honey. And yeah, getting into that meeting and you know, again, you know, when people can take that kind of risk and they make themselves vulnerable, which you did, and actually told us that you were vulnerable at that time, that you were really nervous, that is a sign of just so much emotional intelligence, right? There's all these different kinds of intelligences, and one of them is emotional intelligence. You got it. You got it. You went dark on me. Turn that light back on so I can see your beautiful self again some more, crying out loud.
But I don't know if it's going to turn on. I'm not even in my car. Oh, there we go.
There you go. There's Elizabeth.
My friend's truck, we're at church right now, so I was like listening
Oh,
to
really?
it during church.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna run out. I'll be back.
What church?
Valley in Vacaville.
Okay, good. Good.
It's like 5 minutes from my house.
Yeah, you know, again, baby, I don't know you that well, but I believe in you.
I'm ready to be back.
Yeah, I'm ready to have you back too. And maybe we can sneak around a corner and have a big old hug. Right? Shh. I feel like I'm gonna be doing that all over the district, right? All these people. Shh, let's go over there.
Ms. Marquez said like the same thing. And then today I texted her because I go to her office hours like every Wednesday to say hi.
Good for you. Yeah, that's great.
And so that's the only office hour I go to is hers.
I don't blame you.
And so I texted her and I was like, hey, are you having your office hours? And then she was like, no, not today, because our senior meeting and the freshman meeting ran late. So then she texted me and she's like, I'll call you or I'll FaceTime you. Does that work? And like didn't even give me a chance to respond, and she already FaceTimed me.
Oh, nice.
And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, Ms. Marquez. And then she said, I have office too. So she's like, I'm just gonna give you my car and you're gonna go get us Starbucks and just leave campus.
Yeah, don't take her up on that offer, sweetheart. Yeah, could end up badly for both of you.
No, I'm not going to.
I know you're not. I know you're not. Do you have, so you're, I mean, who in your life tells you that you're wonderful?
Miss Marquez.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
She's right.
I don't talk to my parents really.
Yeah, that's typical for a lot of folks your age, and sometimes it's temporary and sometimes it's longer term and sometimes it's forever, but
Yeah.
you know, and who knows, you're young and a lot of life ahead. But you need to make sure always that you connect yourself with people who see who you are and value who you are, right? And that can be hard to do, you know. Remind me, what are you doing next year? What's your plan?
I'm either going all the way to Oklahoma State or going to Modesto Junior College.
Okay. That's
and then if I go to Modesto, yeah, they're really big differences. But if I go to Modesto, there's an internship there, so I live on campus and work on the school farm.
Yeah. Yeah. So who is it? Is it Hannah Jimenez or Hope? Is it?
It's Hannah.
Oh, Oklahoma State. Yeah. Gosh, and they're moving back there. Whole family is picking up and moving back there. Rebecca told me that a couple of weeks ago. Good gosh. Do you have you think it's this one, not that one? Are you leaning towards one more than the other right now? And Modesto JC, I mean, for you ag folks, is like heaven on earth in a community college setting. I mean, great programs. You're not breaking the bank by any means, you know. Which one are you thinking about more?
I think Modesto is the smarter choice, but the internship hasn't opened. So I'm waiting for that to open to even apply to that.
Yeah.
But my friends go there and they want me to move in with them, but I don't want to live with my friends. I'm not a big, like, I'm not, like, I have girlfriends and I have guy friends, but I don't really get along with people my age.
Don't do it. No, because you're an old soul, right? This is the deal. Do you know the idea of an old soul? Do you know that term?
Yeah, I've heard it a couple times.
Has anybody ever told you that you are one?
Yeah.
Hey, see, I'm not alone, right? You are, honey. You are an old soul. You know, I did, my path was, I went to Catholic school my whole life. My family, very Irish. My parents both were immigrants, very Catholic. My dad actually came to this country at 17 to enter the seminary to become a priest, right? Thank goodness that didn't work out. Otherwise, we would not be having this conversation, right? So I went to Catholic schools, Justin Siena in Napa, everybody college bound, darn near, all this kind of stuff. And as I got into my senior year, and I did all sorts of stuff. I was student body president. I did some sports. I did the plays, clubs, had all sorts of fun. Had a devious side too that we won't go into, but it involved being a stupid teenage boy. And you know, you've seen a lot of that.
I have a brother.
Yes. So I lied my way through my senior year because I knew that I didn't want to go to school right away. I didn't want to go. I knew I was going to be a college bound person, but it was like, I'm just not ready to do it. Well, I don't know what I want to do. So in the fall, where are you applying? Where are you thinking about going? And I was making up schools, right? Just pulling stuff out of, you know, and I did, of all the things I did in high school, working hard on my grades was not one of them. I graduated with like a 3.1, which was fine, but I should have been much higher. So then it's April and my aunt and uncle and 4 kids are out from London. And I had seen them when I was 7 and when I was 14. So here I am 18 at this point in time. And again, we lived in Napa. So I'm up in Calistoga with their family. And I'm sitting in a delicatessen / bar with my uncle. And we clicked like that. And they owned a pub in London at the time. And so we're sitting in this place in Calistoga, and he's, talking about, what do I want to do? I'm finishing high school and all that kind of stuff. And he's also letting me drink some of his beer because, that's the way our family rolled. And it finally clicked. I said, would it be okay if I came and stayed with you guys for a while? Because I don't really want to go to school right away. And so he talked about it, and it was like, absolutely. So I took off in November, and I spent 3 months in London with them, and then 6 months in Ireland, and got to know my entire family over there, who again, a couple weeks when I was 14 and a couple of weeks when I was 7. And it was just the time. I mean, I just grew up in so many ways there. My dad's folks were both very ill. And so I was with them, alone, feeding them, doing some health stuff. They didn't have a clothes washer, so washing clothes in the bathtub and all this other kind of, it's like I was an 18, 19-year-old dumbass kid. And I did all this growing up. And I came back and I went to Napa Valley Community College there. And that whole path was the smartest thing I did, including the community college part. And I have seen way too many kids go away to a 4-year school when it wasn't the right time, or it wasn't the right program, or the money was brutal on them and their family, or all those types of things. So long story gets to the conclusion of you got to trust yourself.
Yeah, I think Modesto.
Yeah, you got to trust yourself, right? Because it's not like you're some, you got it going on. So it's not like, ooh, I got to tell this girl kind of what she should do because she can't really figure it out. No, you're somebody who should trust yourself. And if that's your call, make that your call, but don't live with friends.
Yeah, I don't want to. I already don't.
You are 100% right on that. I mean, don't live with friends.
My brother's girlfriend moved in with us and we were friends, and now it's just so weird.
They're having a baby, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's my secretary is Cicely Bernhardt. So yeah, she's a niece. Yeah. How soon are they due?
July 25th, I think.
Wow. Yeah. It's a young time of life to take. There's nothing better than a baby, anywhere, anytime. But that's a young time in life to take on being a mom and a dad. Yeah, I hope they get lots of support and choose wisely, because yeah, I've known families who have, started that way and it's been absolutely glorious for everybody. And I've known families who've started that way and it's like, oh boy, this ain't good, right? So yeah, I hope it goes well for them. So did you keep my phone number back when we were talking back when Luke passed? Did you put it in your phone?
I think so. Let me see. Yeah.
Good. So just to save me time, you have to text me after we're done here, right? And then we're gonna stay in touch. Okay.
Okay.
Marquez sounds like she's doing a great job of it, but you deserve to have all sorts of people telling you how wonderful you are and offering you their love and support. Because, when I look at you, my dear, I think I see, it's a little bit of, what do I call it? You got a little bit of a heavy heart, got a little bit of sadness in you, huh? Yeah, a little bit of doubt. A little bit of doubt about who you are and are you worthy? Are you deserving? Are you good? Right? Some of that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So again, I see you, Elizabeth. And with that in you, it really makes you all the more beautiful and impressive and admirable and everything, that you carry that with you and you do what you do, and who you are, right? What a worthy soul you are. You are deserving of good. You're deserving of happiness. You're deserving of success and contentment. And I was saying some of that stuff to you guys down at the park after Luke passed, right? And, you know, I see who you are, and you're good. You got a beautiful soul. You got a loving heart. That's who Elizabeth Granillo is. And you don't like hearing that in some ways, do you?
No.
Nope.
I hate it.
Yep. Well, I'll give you 2 words in response to that, Elizabeth. Tough shit.
Heard that too.
Yeah. Because you deserve to hear it. And, you know, whatever way I can, I like to give kids what they deserve, you know? And I keep all my kids under my wing or under my umbrella or whatever you want to call it. And then I have moments like this with somebody where it's like, okay, we just went from this level to this level, right? And, you know, you will, and in some ways, I'm really like you in terms of feeling worthy and feeling like, you know, am I good? And I'm such a dipshit in so many ways, or don't do this, or don't do that, or that kind of stuff. And yeah, so I have my own questions about Brian Dolan, despite all the ones that other people have. And yeah, so I, you know, and for me, it's pretty big time depression, like I was talking about. But so I struggle, you know, kind of with seeing myself and understanding that I'm okay. And I know I am, but some days it doesn't feel like it, you know. And like I said today, when that kiddo reached out to me, it's like, okay, you know, she said, you need to take some time to decompress, and said, I don't have that time, but just that you were thinking of me and reached out to say, hey, I'm thinking of you and you should take this time. I was like, okay, I'm all right.
Yeah.
Yep, right. I'm all right. So my dear, you're going to be stuck with me. Sorry.
Okay.
And I have, no, it's more than okay. You're supposed to say, oh, thank you, Mr. Dolan. Thank God above and everybody else for, you know, I've got, and again, it's not a huge number of people who I have this kind of conversation with, but I just had a kid, she's 22 now, who texted a couple days ago, I'm sorry I haven't been in touch, work in school, I'm in this program, I need some help. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad to hear from her and I get to help. It's like, right? Feels good. It's nice. But you've got me, yeah, you've got some unconditional support coming. Unqualified encouragement. Reminders of who you are. Because you confirmed what I thought tonight in your hesitant, reluctant nod, smile, eyes. Yeah, you say a lot without saying a word. You know that? You have a very expressive, beautiful face. You do.
Yeah,
Yep.
I have a lot of facial expressions.
Yeah. Yep. Well, they're glorious as far as I'm concerned. When you, why did you put the chat, can we talk when we're done? What was in
I
your
just
head?
wanted to say thank you.
Hmm.
That was it.
Well, that's beautiful, and I appreciate that. I do. You know, we're all working hard, and we're trying to do the right thing for you guys, and it's hard, and you know, can't make, you know, obviously you can never make everybody happy. And some people are just so stinking unreasonable about it. You know, I used to say I could walk around handing out $50 bills for no reason, and people would complain. Some people would complain that it wasn't 100, right? Like when I was high school principal back in the day, and you just couldn't make people happy. And I work, you know, with a smaller group of people as a high school principal than I do now. And I always say I could walk around just handing out grants, those $50 bills, and people say, why isn't it a Franklin? Come on, man, you're gonna blah 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 blah. So I appreciate your thoughtfulness and your gratitude, and again, that's who Elizabeth Granillo is, right? I've seen it.
Sometimes.
No, whoa. No, here's the deal, right? We always are who we are. We always are who we are. That never changes. What we think changes, and how we act changes. Right? What we're feeling, how we think, what we do, that's the stuff that changes, right? But who you are, that doesn't move. All this other stuff around you moves. Did I do this? Did I say that? Did I, you know, am I thinking that, feeling that, any of that kind of stuff? And obviously we can have, you know, we evolve and change over time. You know, Brian Dolan, who's almost 58 and a superintendent of schools with 2 grown kids, and, you know, married almost 30 years, is different than Brian Dolan at 25, who is a new teacher and coaching high school sports and all that kind of stuff. There's those differences, but I know I can look back and see, you know, I'm the same guy that I was back then, just in a different place in life. Yeah, who you are doesn't change. It's just what you're up to, what you're thinking, what you're feeling. And we both can drag ourselves down, right? And I think you more than me probably, you know, have a hard time hearing that you're good, and hearing that you're true, and that you're, you know, this beautiful soul and spirit. And yeah, but it's true, honey. It's who you are. Who you are, Elizabeth. That's who you are. And I can screw around with kids and talk a lot of trash and all that kind of stuff, but I don't bullshit kids. I don't bullshit my young folks. Sometimes my conversation is about, dude, you're throwing your life away here. You are, you know, you're missing it. You're hurting yourself, that kind of stuff. And then other times there are these kind of conversations where I get to, oh gosh, just reflect and tell a young person what a wonderful creation they are. Yeah, that's what you are.
Thank you.
That's what you are. And that's a good answer, to say thank you. Because it's still not comfortable.
Yeah.
Still not comfortable, right?
But it's better than saying nothing.
Yes. Or deflecting, right? Yep. And part of that dynamic is being able, okay, hearing something positive about yourself and not resisting it, not fighting it, right? Because that's my judgment. That's my decision about you. And as you will learn over time here, I'm right about everything, Elizabeth. Every damn thing under the sun, I am right about. Just ask my wife. No, don't ask my wife. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you reached out because you needed a little bit more than saying thanks, right? Maybe you didn't know you were going to get it.
Didn't know I was going to get it.
But holy smokes, girl, you've gotten it. And like I told my young friend this morning, because she was, sometimes she's like, I'm sorry to take your time up or whatever. And it's like, being able to offer you guys some love and support makes me happy, right? She was doing this, you got to take some time off and decompress. And I said, I can't right now. There's just too much to do. But 10 minutes of texting back and forth with her, which would have been 6 if I could text with any kind of speed, was like, oh, that pumped me up for the rest of the day. It was like, gosh, I feel good. I got to do that, right? And I'll kind of float home right now thinking, and I don't know what time we started, about 5 or 10 after. Wow, I had that time with Elizabeth tonight. And this makes me happy. Makes me happy to have time with you. It makes me happy to make you think about yourself perhaps in a different way than when your night started.
Yeah, you definitely helped.
Mm-hmm. I can do that sometimes. I can be a pain in the ass at other times as well. But we disconnect here, and you need to. Here's your assignment for tonight. When you get into bed, and you lay down tonight, and after you've put your phone. You put your phone down for the last time. Although, are you one of those people who's like sleeps with it cradled there?
I don't. It's under my pillow, but.
Oh, see, pretty damn close. Pretty damn close.
Or it's like kind of far away watching a movie.
There you go. Okay. Yep. So you lay down tonight, and we have to tell ourselves things. And this is some of the stuff I've learned doing my treatment for the depression, right? Is we have to tell ourselves things, and we do, most of us do a lot of negative talk. And then for those of us who have something more going on, depression or, whatever it is, life stuff that's challenging, or our relationships aren't giving us everything they need with family or whomever, we have to actually literally tell ourselves things. So tonight, your job, after you've tucked your phone under your pillow,
that's to tuck it in.
If you make it that far, yeah, you can tuck it in the drawer next to your bed and really tuck it in. So your job tonight, you got to say it out loud 3 times. Is this: I am deserving of good things. I am deserving of good things. I am deserving of good things. You say that 3 times. And if you have to, you can also add at the end. Are you still there? Oh, there, you left my screen for
Yeah. It just had a notification.
Yep. If you have to, after you say that, I am worthy of good things, and you say that 3 times. If you have to say, because Mr. Dolan told me so, that's fine for tonight.
Okay. I might add that in.
But over time, over time, my dear, you're going to come to accept that as your truth more independently.
Okay.
Because the truth is, you are deserving of good things. You are a good thing, crying out loud. You are, you are, you are. This opportunity to chat with you and connect with you, especially, is just a real. So I feel blessed to have got to do this with you. Truly, truly, truly. And I feel blessed to know that, all right, Elizabeth is going to text me after this is done, and then we get to stay in, regular contact, and I get to remind you of who you are through messages and other stuff. So, and we'll make part of our deal here that we do this, that we see each other too, and hopefully we'll get to a point where we could do some of that in person. But I maybe before tonight I was a fan of Team Elizabeth, but now I'm a member of Team Elizabeth. I might even be the captain of Team Elizabeth.
You're the coach.
The coach. I loved coaching when I was teaching, and yes, I do have that kind of that feel about this. That yeah, I'm. This is coaching too. Yeah, but comes from pure love and support for you. That's what it's all about. Because guess what? You're deserving of those good things, Elizabeth Granillo. What is your middle name, dear?
Michelle.
Michelle. Elizabeth Michelle Granillo. Yes. Yeah. You're deserving of good things. And Mr. Dolan told me so. If you have to say that.
Mr. Dolan told me so.
I'm going to believe it myself. Gosh, I'm glad we got to do this.
Me too.
Yep, I am. And one of the things, that I will say to you repeatedly, along with you're deserving of good things, is that you have to find ways to be good to yourself. Yeah, probably don't do a lot of that these days, do you? Because the most important ways to be good to yourself, to ourselves, because I have to do it too, is thinking about who we are, where our value is, what we bring to life, what we bring to others. We can fall so readily into, I don't do this, I'm this negative thing, I'm da 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 da, all that kind of stuff. And part of the show has to be that self-talk and that processing of who you are, and just working on the doubt, right? Working on the doubt. And again, I'm in a few weeks, 58-year-old man, and I still got plenty of doubt and I still got stuff to work on. But my dear, you have a 4-decade advantage over me. It's a hell of a head start. Hell of a head start, girl. And I really do stick with my people beyond high school as long as they want. I literally have people in here in Dixon who I taught or coached between 1988 and 1996 when I was at Baca High, who are still my kids, and have these kind of conversations with people, and their kids are my school kids now, and I'm damn near ready to have grandkids of those people, and it's like it's time to retire when I get to that stuff. But yeah, you have me as a supporter for as long as you want, and sometimes I have to tell people you have me as a supporter whether you want it or not. Because some people want to go away and not be good to themselves, and I try not to let that happen. Yeah, I'll fight that stuff. But you're not going to need that. You're just going to need some reminders, some pointers. Elizabeth, Michelle, I see you. I know who you are. You're deserving of good things. I told you so. All that good stuff. Text me just so I get that number in there at the top of my list. I don't remember if I saved it or not. And again, things on my phone are very time consuming. Thank you for sharing yourself with me tonight.
Thanks for talking.
Yep, it is my pleasure to do so. And, just you confirmed who I thought you are.
Okay.
And you're good. You're good, dear. Okay. Text me. Be good to yourself. Okay. Know there's somebody out here who believes in you. Okay. Somebody loves you and supports you unconditionally. Unconditionally. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, sweetie. Thank you.
Bye.
Take care of yourself.